I just finished episode 5. I've got lots of notes, so let's get right into it. As usual, if you've watched farther than episode 5, please just don't spoil anything in the comments. Before we get into the plot, I want to talk about the title really quick, because this episode was called The Past. And honestly, I think that might have set me up for some disappointment, because I got really excited when I sat down to watch this one. I made a little note to myself, is this going to be a flashback? Are we going to figure out who Rose McClane is? Are we going to figure out what Vault Tech did to these vaults? I got so excited, and that turned out not to really be what this episode was about. But there was still a lot of good stuff in it. This episode, like the previous one, was very split between scenes on the surface and scenes in the vault. So I think it makes sense, again, to talk about them separately. And I'm going to start with the scenes on the surface, because this episode opens on Maximus and Thaddeus. And they are having a good time. They've kind of bonded. They're laughing together. Thaddeus convinces Maximus to brand him, which is also kind of a bonding moment for them. It's very cute. And Maximus decides to reveal his identity because, of course, Thaddeus, up until this point, thinks that he is working with Knight Titus, and that's obviously not the case. I really didn't know how this was going to go. I could have seen it going either way. I was very anxious watching this reveal happen. And Thaddeus does not accept Maximus for being Maximus. He kind of turns on him and leaves him stranded. And the thing is, I don't think it's malicious. Obviously it's cruel. Thaddeus is so scared of the Brotherhood. And you see that as soon as he says, the Brotherhood is going to kill you for this. That is a man who is terrified. He knows that what Maximus has done is completely unforgivable. There is no saving him with the Brotherhood. All along, we've kind of seen that Thaddeus understands the Brotherhood better than Maximus does. Maximus was not was not a very good scribe. He didn't really understand the responsibilities of the role or what he had to do. Whereas Thaddeus knows the Brotherhood inside and out, and he knows that there isn't really a chance for Max here. Even if they come back with the target, there's no forgiving what Max has done. So Thaddeus, stranding Max in the power armor, that's kind of a necessary thing that Thaddeus thinks he has to do to get out of the situation, which is the only hope he has of being spared. That is not a man who is simply being a bully. That is not a man who's taking any pleasure in doing this to Max. That's a guy who knows that the Brotherhood will end them both if this goes any further. He strands Maximus in the power armor by pulling out the fusion core, which was very cool. That's always a thing that I wish I could pull off in the games. When you're using VATS on an enemy who's in power armor, you can see the damage that hitting the fusion core directly would do, and I just never managed to pull off that perfect shot, but I always wanted to. It's such a neat weak point in the power armor design that seeing somebody finally do it and just pop that out was very satisfying. It was also terrifying. I said back in the episode where Maximus gets in the power armor for the first time how claustrophobic and scary that must be. And seeing him be stuck in it is truly a nightmare come to life. Just delightfully horrible. Maximus spends the night in this power armor suit totally trapped, and it's terrifying, and there are rad roaches on him. For some reason, I'm not satisfied with the rad roaches design, and I don't know why. They're big cockroaches. The sound effects are really pleasant. Not pleasant, but appropriately creepy. You know what I mean. They're just not doing it for me. And I would love to hear others' opinions on that. Do you like the rad roaches, or is there something missing with them that you just don't get that same feeling you get in the games? Lucy comes across Maximus, of course, because she's been tracking the head, and that was the last known location of the head before Thaddeus took it. She is such a baddie now. I'm obsessed. She's rolling up, ready to go. She's got a gun. She's really leveled up, and it's very fun to see. She's less trusting now, which makes sense. She asks Maximus to tell her his name, and he lies. I was kind of shocked that he lied, to be honest. It just seems so against the good guy that he's trying to be. He really doesn't have anything left to lose by lying to Lucy, but he does anyway. And I think he's got, A, a lot of insecurity about his position, but B, he wants to be this good guy so badly. I think he's willing to pretend a little bit that he is. Lucy is suffering from radiation sickness, which I called it. We saw her Pip-Boy going crazy with the rads, and I knew that would come into effect at some point. And this is a nice way for it too. We get some rat away. We get to see her, struggling with radiation poisoning. Like, that has kind of come full circle. She's really suffering with being on the surface. Maximus, though, continues to lie. And I'm so fascinated by his choices in this. Lucy, asks him to agree if she helps him, that in exchange, the Brotherhood is going to send 5 or 6 knights to help her recover her father. And Max shakes on this. Max cannot command anybody in the Brotherhood. He absolutely cannot guarantee 5 or 6 other knights. Honestly, even if he was a knight, I don't think he'd be able to convince the Brotherhood to spare 5 or 6 knights for this quest. Lucy keeps trying to assure him, you can trust me. And I thought that was so interesting because, yeah, he can trust her. He's the one that can't be trusted. He lied about his name, and now he's lying about how much sway he has with the Brotherhood and if they're going to be able to help her or not. Here's the thing, though. After they shake on it, this is like companion mode unlocked. Lucy, our main character, ostensibly, now has a companion to travel the wasteland with. And the thing about companions is that they get more honest with higher affinity. So I don't really mind that he's lying to her now because companion mode. As they're traveling together, we get, I think it's a little Easter egg of her Pip-Boy showing her injury on the screen, which is just such a cute nod to the Pip-Boys in the games. Lucy is asking Max to tell her, what's happened in the last 200 years? Max tells her, the bombs fell when I was a kid, which, what? There's so many things that this could be in the moment that he says it. It could be that the vault residents truly don't know how much time has passed. Like, seriously, if you're in like a generational silo like that and somebody tells you we've been underground for 200 years, you really personally have no way of verifying that against your own memory. And I did question that when he said the bombs dropped when he was a kid. We are going to get some more information about that at the end, and I'm going to try and put together a full timeline of things we know, because this gets confusing. Lucy talks a little bit about her mom. She says that up until she was 6, she really thought that the glowing light in the sky was the sun. She swears that she could feel it. And we do get a brief flashback scene of her with her mother. The thing about that flashback scene, though, is that it's not clear if it's in the vault, actually. Like, you just see the bright light. I'm not convinced that that was the vault, and I'm not convinced that was the sun. I don't have great memories of before I was 6. I think it's entirely possible that Lucy did leave the vault before she was 6 with her mother and just doesn't remember that that was actually outside and not inside, but I'm sure we'll get those answers later. Max is explaining the Brotherhood of Steel to Lucy, and she sort of questions it. She's like, you guys use pre-war tech to find pre-war tech to make sure that nobody has access to pre-war tech? And he's like, yeah, I guess it is weird, which confirms what I've been feeling for a while, which is that Max is not really invested in the mission of the Brotherhood of Steel. He's very able to sort of laugh it off, to be like, yeah, it's a weird thing we're doing, compared to Thaddeus, who takes it extremely seriously. He knows that the Brotherhood can execute him just for going along with Max's weird plan, whereas Max is kind of laughing this all off. He thinks that he can work around it. Yeah, it is weird, he says. They run into this other pair of people on a bridge. They call out to each other, being like, are you armed? No. Are you armed? Can we safely pass? And it's so tense. And I realize when I'm playing Fallout 4, if I get a new settler, I immediately trust that new settler. I have no further questions. They're in. And this depiction of when you cross paths with somebody in the first time in the wasteland, this is probably more realistic. You're probably going to be a lot more wary about what could happen. That said, I'm kind of disappointed by the lack of growth that I would have expected to see in the past 200 years. And I know this is a gripe that people often have about the Fallout games in general. If the bombs fell in 2077 and we're playing, around 200 years later, I would expect to see a ton of progress, a ton of new norms established, new languages developed, so many things in that 200 years. And there are some gaps in that in the games, like why are none of the buildings weatherproof? That's something that humanity would do in the first few years of restarting civilization. But what bothers me a lot about this encounter is that it really feels like it could have happened like a year or two after the bombs dropped. You have two groups of people who don't know how to cross each other. It's like they've never done this before. And they cross uneasily, not knowing, what's going on, how do we navigate this? And it just feels so new to them. I almost hoped that they were gonna be something like Children of Adam, because Children of Adam is one of those wonderful things, those pieces of lore and world building that makes me aware that we've been away for 200 years. It would have taken 200 years for this new religion to crop up and gain this fanatic cult following. And so when we run into characters like the cultists, it's a delightful reminder that the world is so different than it used to be, instead of just this, which was those people want to hurt us and we want to hurt them. And we both have guns and we're both lying about it. It just felt like kind of a letdown, because there could have been some really neat world building in that moment. I will say the song they play during that scene, though, is delightful. I think it's called Ladyfingers. It was a trending audio on TikTok for a while. It's wonderful. That in the passing slowly was very, very satisfying to me. The strangers pull out their weapons on Max and Lucy. Max reacts quickly. He takes Lucy's gun and manages to fire at them first. If Lucy had been on her own, she would have been dead, which I think we as the audience are supposed to understand that Max was correct in this situation for being more guarded. But Max still gets shot, and he tries to brush it off with this, "Oh, happens all the time," which obviously it does not. I don't think he's ever been shot in the shoulder before. This cool guy act that he's playing is getting very old to me very quickly, because he's just being stupid. But I think that's Max's whole deal. He really wants to play pretend. He has wanted to be the hero for so long that now that he has this chance to act it out, he can't help but take it. They eventually make it to Shady Sands, the new California Republic, and I'm going to be really honest with you, I do not remember all of the lore that I need from the games to understand the significance of that. And I'm a little scared to Google it, because last time I did, I saw the beginning of a spoiler for the rest of the show. So we're just kind of going in without information here. Regardless, we know that Shady Sands was established. It was a thriving community for a while, and then it was destroyed. Lucy comments on how Reclamation Day is the entire purpose of her vault, waiting to come up and restart civilization with a town like this. That's what keeps them all going. So seeing that it's already happened is soul crushing. And Max kind of remarks offhandedly, well, it didn't work out, so what are you gonna do? He shows her the bomb site. I believe Shady Sands got bombed. And Max makes a comment that's what always happens. Everybody wants to save the world. They just disagree on how. I'm kind of bothered by that. I think the idea that humanity will always destroy itself is just not true. I'm going to switch gears for a second here, because I think a lot about the Fermi paradox, and I just want to talk about it for a sec. It's that paradox about alien life. We're intelligent life, we evolved, where is everybody else in the universe? And there's a couple of things that could theoretically explain it. Maybe we're just the first intelligent life, and we're just extremely lucky, and every other planet is billions of years behind us. Maybe we're the last. Maybe it's the dark forest, and if we get too loud technologically, we'll be wiped out. Or maybe there is a hurdle in our evolution that we haven't yet crossed. Maybe the big filter that's coming up for us is that most civilizations don't last past the age of discovering nuclear technology, because they can't help but destroy themselves. And the thing is, I don't believe that's what we're gonna do. And I think that's just because I'm an optimist. I think we've got more to go as a species than just this. And so I don't love the line of oh, that's what always happens with civilization. They always blow up. Because I don't think we always will. I think that we can get better. We get another flashback to Maximus as a kid. We learn that the town that he lived in was Shady Sands. That's he was there when the bombs dropped. He's in this little milk fridge for it. And it just reminds me so much of the Boy in the Fridge quest. I know that it's milk and not the fridge, but I just can't shake it every time that flashback comes up. I hope I'm not the only one who feels that way. This also answers the question that I had earlier when Max said the bombs dropped when I was a kid. This is the bomb that he's talking about. Now, his wound that he got earlier, that's obviously worse than he was pretending it was, so they have to find medical supplies. Lucy finds them Hawthorne Medical Laboratories and insists they go inside, and as they're going inside, we see the Vault-Tec logo outside. And I am so excited by this Vault-Tec logo, because I'm still thinking, like, oh, this episode is the past. We're going to learn more about the past. I really thought that this was going to be like a quest in Fallout where you can go and read lore on terminals. I truly thought that she was going to walk in there and find a terminal, and it was going to be like the above ground part of her vault experiment and explain everything. That's what I thought we were walking into here. That is not what we were walking into here. They actually both get gassed and they wake up on gurneys in a vault. Lucy is immediately reassured. She's like, we're in the best place on earth. We are in a vault. Everything is good. Max is terrified. I think I'm also terrified. We don't know what vault they're in, but given the distance they've traveled, I think it's safe to say they're not in 31, 32, or 33 anymore. I think this is a new vault. They also seem to be behind a window, so I'm wondering if it's one of those vaults where you have an observation section and then the actual vault section. Has Lucy stumbled into the cruel part of this vault experiment and she's gonna realize what Vault-Tec actually is? And speaking of Vault-Tec, let's go back and talk about the scenes that are happening in the vault in this episode. Now, when we left off last time, Norm and Chet were exploring the abandoned Vault 32, and Norm was talking about how they found the records where his mom's Pip-Boy unlocked the front gate, vault door, whatever it is. He assumes that it's just her Pip-Boy because I think she would have been dead by that point. But again, we're going to talk about the timeline at the end of this. The vault set design continues to impress. Truly, all the pieces, I just finished my Vault 88 build and this just feels perfect. Really perfect. They find the entrance to 31 with the people of 32 trying to get in. There's something written on the wall we know what's in there. And I write down at this point, the question I have is, who do we know that has actually come from Vault 31? And at this point, the only answer that we have is Hank McClane. We know in the first episode, he said that he came from Vault 31 to marry Rose in Vault 32. We also know that he, as overseer, is able to telegram with the other Vault overseers. So I'm thinking it's possible that he was lying. It's totally possible that he was in on this and he did not ever have any contact with these other vaults. But I do believe that he genuinely loves Lucy, and he was willing to let her marry somebody from 32. So I think we can assume that Hank reasonably assumed that whoever was coming out of 32 was not a raider. That would be a weirdly bad thing to be okay with for the sake of pretending you don't know what's going on there. You know what I mean? Letting your daughter marry somebody who's going to kill her a few minutes later and giving a whole speech about how hopeful you are for their children. I think that Hank really believed that whoever was coming out of Vault 32 would be a good husband for Lucy. But Hank has not been the only overseer that we know. In the next scene, we see again that Betty, Reg, and Woody are all running for overseer, and Davy is trying to justify his vote being for Betty, and he says, because Betty's been overseer before. Betty's been overseer before. Details continue to spill out because Norm goes back to his terminal. We see this special poster again, and he finds a list of vault personnel trades. And what he realizes is that every person who has come from 31 to 33 seems to have been elected vault overseer, including his own father and Betty. What does that mean? I have questions about this scene, specifically with the dates on the terminal that he's looking at. Are the dates the years that they were overseer or the years that they were in the vault? The vault dwellers talk about how people from Vault 31 are just simply more qualified to be overseer. They even have a saying, when things look glum, vote 31. Because people from 31, they have more resources, they have a better education, they're just more prepared to handle it. Hank was elected overseer after a weevil famine. And I have so many questions. All this time, Steph is still at Chet's place, which made me laugh. But we also learn that Steph is from Vault 31, which gives us some more detail. We realize that not everybody who comes over immediately becomes overseer. Maybe she will eventually, but it's not a guarantee. She makes some weird comment about mashed potatoes, and I think it's possible that Vault 31 either doesn't really exist or is completely a sham, or there's something really shady going on inside it. But to be honest, I don't think that many people could keep that big of a secret. People are really bad at keeping secrets. And if you have a bunch of people who have this secret childhood or secret young adulthood and are just expected to never say anything about it ever, never slip up once, not even to their husbands or friends or partner, like nobody, you're kind of putting a lot of trust in people being able to keep a secret, and people aren't that good at it. But with Vault Tech, who knows? Betty leads a group of dwellers into Vault 32. She wants to have a meeting to talk about the future of the vault. And she says it's important for us to see this together. And what we as the audience know is that Norm and Chet have just gotten back from Vault 32, and it is a mess. Not just the mess of the raiders, but there are dead bodies from years and years ago. Like, it's terribly disturbing. There's messages on the wall. And that's all clean. Somehow, somebody in the span of like 12 hours has completely and perfectly reset Vault 32. I don't believe that was something Betty could have done herself, so something else is going on here. I don't know who else it could have been from Vault 32 that could have helped either. Woody and Reg were the other members of the Vault Council, and frankly, they just don't seem competent enough to pull that off. It's possible that she is in contact with Vault 31 still, and they're helping with this effort. It's a big cover-up, and I don't understand why. 3 democracies in 3 vaults, separated to prevent the spread of threats, but connected to aid one another in times of need. That makes sense as a system. I don't get how a vault experiment plays into this. I don't get how the destruction of Vault 32 from years ago plays into this. I don't understand how the cover-up of that destruction plays into this. I don't understand how Vault 31 plays into this. I don't understand why the Vault 31 residents are lying, or if they're lying. I don't understand where Hank McClain is from or where he went. I have so many more questions now. But again, props to set design, because these vault set pieces are truly amazing. Betty says that Rose's Pip-Boy was buried with her, which it shouldn't be, frankly. Sorry. If you're living in a vault, you would recycle that. You would give it to the next person. You do not have unlimited manufacturing in a vault, but whatever. Betty says that she buried Rose with Hank. So whatever happened, Hank is in on it, or maybe dug her up afterwards, or maybe she wasn't buried at all. That's pretty much all we get out of the vault scenes. So let's talk about the timeline, I guess. Here are the things that we know. 2077, that was when the bombs fell. And 2296 is the current year, roughly. We also know in between then that Shady Sands was founded. The sign said 2142 was when Shady Sands was founded. And from last episode, when Lucy mentioned the plague of 77, we know that in 2277, there was a plague in Vault 33, and that is possibly when her mother died. Again, I am not confident that her saying her mother starved means that's when her mother died or what she died from, but let's say it is. Let's say that Rose McClain died in the plague of 77. I wish I knew how old Lucy and Maximus were. That would help me a lot. I would also like to know when the bombs on Shady Sands fell. That would also help me a lot. There's one more detail that we do have here, and if we think back to when Norm was on the terminal, the years under Hank McClain's name were 2271 to 2297. I don't know if those were the years that he lived in Vault 33 or those were the years that he was overseer. That's 26 years, so that would be a really long time to be overseer, right? So maybe we can assume that 2271 is when Hank came from Vault 31. That's all I've got. I have no answers. We got no past. We don't know where Max and Lucy are now. We don't know where Rose or Hank are. We know nothing. I think, like I said at the beginning, I was just set up to like this episode less because I had been primed with the title of the past that we were going to get a lot of info here. And so to get nothing but more questions feels bad. I think the highlight of this episode to me was the vault set design, especially because I've been doing so much Fallout settlement building in a vault recently. That really shone. I also appreciated the break from the ghoul, to be honest. I like Max and Lucy better as characters. And as separate as the two halves feel between the surface and the vault, I like that we're getting information on both. I don't really mind the bouncing back and forth. That's all I have. I'm very excited to watch episode 6 because I'm hoping we're going to get some more information about where Max and Lucy are kind of immediately. If you've watched episode 5, if you liked it, or if you were just as frustrated as I was with the lack of actual past history revealed, please let me know. I love talking to you guys about the show and I'm having so much fun watching it. Please let me know what you agreed with and what you didn't, and I'll see you next week.